Thank you for joining us on today's edition of Platform. Today we'll be talking about something very important that affects you and I, and that is the issue of land. All of us live on land, and how important is land? Some of the conflicts are driven by the issue of land. So it's important to manage the space we have. And that's why we're bringing in today the Honorable Commissioner for Lands Survey and Town Planning here in Plateau State in the person of Barrister Peter Nyamgai. I'm your uncle Yakubu Tadi. We'll be talking about the land issues and what this government has up the sleeves in terms of trying to understand and also make land acquisition and land administration better. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, viewers. Thank you.
Well, the first thing you did was to suspend allocations, and people were saying, okay, it was going on fine, and suddenly you came and you hit the hammer. What happened?
Yeah, thank you. We realized that during the rush hour of the past government, when they were exiting, allocations were done. And we needed to study those allocations first because we discovered that there was a distortion of the Greater Master Plan. And some of those distortions came within the purview of what we had to do to suspend the processing of certificates or titles. But right now, we have started processing the title. We have isolated those areas that we discovered that they had issues. So by the time we resolve processing of titles, will continue in those areas. But for now, generally, we are processing titles and want to give members of the public an assurance that as from November 1st, we'll begin to receive fresh applications, and in 2 months, we should be able to give prospective applicants their titles of registration by the grace of God.
How much of distortion did that cause, or did you notice from the?
Yeah, a lot. We had issues of forceful acquisitions, areas that ordinarily people are not supposed to build. We discovered that structures coming up there. Secondly, we also discovered that areas were built without following the due process. For example, if you look at the development that is taking place opposite Yelwa Club, you will notice that that area was reserved for green area, so that park and recreational facilities will be able to put there. People can sit out, and then we have the overview of the dam. But if you look at it now, completely houses have taken up those areas. We also have areas that ordinarily in government reserve areas, people just enter and build without even paying. So these are areas that we need to look into them, because land generally belongs to government. That's the provision of the Land Use Act. It's the development or the improvements of the land that the general public can lay claim to. So government wants to take possession of what rightly belongs to it in order to maintain and sanitize land administration on the platform.
So what happens to those areas you have mentioned?
Yeah, those areas we have mentioned, I think government is taking a critical look at those areas. Definitely, government will come out with a position with regards to those areas. But certainly, I can assure you that there are areas that will not stand the test of time. Definitely, they have to give you.
Well, let's go to one important issue that all of you onboarding of the new executive council members of the Plateau State government and also other appointees, particularly to your ministry. What are the critical issues that were discussed, and how do you hope to implement them?
Yes, I think the governor has given us free hand to bring innovations, to bring improvements, and we have taken that challenge. For example, one of the key critical areas that the ministry needs to address is the area of recertification. And I can assure you that in no distant time, we'll roll out a policy concerning that. For example, you still see certificate of occupancy bearing Lion Bank. You know that Lion Bank is defunct. You still see certificate of occupancy bearing names of companies that have already been acquired or they have also been matched. So the essence of the certification is bring forward all documents. We'll issue with new ones. And let me also mention here that Plateau State, we are partly implementing the GIS. That's the Geographical Information System. Yes. You know, we have PLAGIS. Yeah. And PLAGIS started around 2011 during the administration of David Jonathan. And since then, there has been no improvement on the facilities he provided. So what we want to do now is to see how we can upgrade it. And you cannot upgrade it if you still have files that were done prior to 2011. So the essence of certification is for prospective title holders to come back. We'll capture them on our database, and then we'll issue you with a certificate that has security features. If you look at our new certificate now, it has a barcode, and that barcode contains all information regarding the land. So at one glance, you can see the information as to who has it, the size of the land. So definitely, we'll try and embark on the certification. Secondly, it will interest you to know that we just have about 61,000 registered titles in Plateau State. And that, to me, is not adequate. That is almost less than 1.3% of the population of Plateau State. And if you look at the volume of assets that the state has, I think we should be able to do better. So one of the strategic plans of the ministry is to see how we can capture more houses and also at a reduced cost. Because one thing that is scaring people from registration, of course, is the cost. So we'll do everything possible to make sure that we reduce the bottlenecks, we reduce the cost, so that we can capture as many houses as possible.
Well, the last administration had offered 50% reduction.
Yes.
Did that not also? Are you going lower than the 50%, or what is the impact of that reduction?
Yes, the impact, of course, is massive. For example, if a property owner is supposed to pay 5 million, by 50%, it means he's paying 2.5 million. And I think that reduction also impacted positively because we saw a surge in revenue generation. But that as it may, I think that grace has expired. But the governor of Plateau State, in his own magnanimity, I think he is also disposed to that grace continuing. So maybe the ministry is still discussing. Maybe we'll just give a latitude of about 3 months for people to rush and pay based on the 50% reduction. Otherwise, if government decides to say we will not renew it, it means we have to go full blast to collect 100%. But I think the governor, being a people-oriented governor, has looked at the situation on ground. And for now, I can say we'll still continue with the 50% until directed otherwise.
Okay, with pledges yet to, at its teaching level, if I may use that word.
Yes.
So how do you hope to also improve, how do you also to capture more people with the technology that is supposed to have made it easy and seamless, not in place?
Honestly, if the previous government had gone ahead to do what Jonathan started, I think Plateau will have been competing with Lagos by now. The system that Lagos is operating is almost the same with the system that we have on the Plateau. But you know, once you provide a system, you need to upgrade it. I don't think anything new has been added from the last installation by the last administration of that Jonathan. So we need to improve our the system. We need to ensure that it captures more areas of revenue. For example, Lagos, I don't think you hear Lagos talking about ground rent again. They talk about property tax, and that is where the money comes in. So we intend to improve possibly what we have on ground, or with technology now, if we can muster the resources to deploy a new technology, certainly we will not shy away from doing that. For example, in Kaduna State, Kaduna is doing pretty well. Lagos is doing pretty well. Kaduna is generating 46 billion every year on ground rent only. I don't think in Plateau State we generate up to 1.2 billion in a year from ground rent. In any case, um, locating the people to even serve them with the ground rent is also a challenge. So we're deploying no means of ensuring that people have their ground rent served in the comfort of their houses. Very soon, we will begin to deploy technology to send it by email. We're thinking of acquiring machines so that they will be able to enter into the nooks and crannies to serve people with demand notices. So very soon there will be improvement. At least people should be able to obtain their demand notices seamlessly without any hazards.
Okay, recently you embarked on a tour, and outcome of that tour, I heard about some modern houses in every local government, and I'm sure with the completion of the pledges, that will also be an incentive for investors to have a holistic look at where they want to do because there's mapping already done. So, how is it going to happen that with the situation we are, the enabling environment to have them have from an eye view where they are seated in the comfort of their countries or parts of Nigeria to say, okay, we can look at this location from here and do this thing. What are the mechanisms you're going to put in place to convince those people? Or have you started talking to the people who are going to implement this housing project?
Yeah, very interesting question, Tadi. I went through the 5 zonal offices we have: Barkinladi, Mongu, Panshing, Shandam, and Latam in the first place. Those zonal area offices are in a deplorable stage. Um, some cannot pass for the worst office. Honestly, I had to apologize on behalf of government to the staff that are working in those area offices. Secondly, they are bereaved of working tools. None of my area office has a vehicle to move, and they're supposed to move around to cover their areas of jurisdiction. Now, yes, we spoke about unique cities, and the reason is simple. The last time you heard of mass housing on the plateau is either during the locals' houses or Shagari houses. And you know that Shagari houses didn't do well on the plateau. And with the insecurity we have now, I think we must begin to live a communal life, just like our forefathers did, living in one place. So the essence of unique city is to be able to bring investors, to be able to encourage our sons and daughters living outside Plateau State to own a decent accommodation. And you and me know that the people at home depend more on the people that are outside to boost their economic activities. So we want to draw the attention of our illustrious sons that are outside to begin to come back home. And one of the things is to provide a decent accommodation. Now, this project is not going to be run single-handedly by the Ministry of Lands. It's a synergy between the local government, Ministry of Urban Development, the Ministry of Lands, and also private individuals who may decide to provide infrastructures within those areas and will build the cost. And I can assure you that the cost will be minimal. And one interesting thing about these unique cities is that each allotee will have a certificate of occupancy. will not give a single allocation, certificate of occupancy, and then maybe begin to pass around that. No, each allotee, even if it is 50 by 50, the ministry will give you a title to hold. So by the time we complete that, you will discover that there will be more economic activities there. You will also discover that there will be more security. You also discover that income will come to the state, come to the local government, and of course, the locals that will be working within those sites will also boost their income.
Have you presented this before the private sector,
Yes.
especially people in the building industry, or you're just thinking about taking this proposal to them?
Yes, yes. It's at the stage of planning now. When we finish the planning, we'll now expose it to the stakeholders. The stakeholders are expected to critique it, and then at the end of the day, we'll come out with something that the people of Plateau State will be delighted.
There was a what we saw sometimes back. They said low-income houses. The federal government was doing, and they said a two-bedroom flat 7 million. And so people were wondering how low is that for a low-income earner.
Yes, last week I received the MD of Federal Mortgage Bank. They also want to partner with the government to build houses for civil servants, low-income earners. And I asked this same question. And I said, how affordable are these houses? And he assured me that by the time the state government gives land, at least the cost of land will have been removed from the cost of the building, and um, the staff or subscribers will be able to afford. So the issue is affordability. And I think by the time we complete our own, we wouldn't do it in such a way that people would not be able to subscribe. Reasonably, it will be a cost that is bearable.
But what are the guarantees that the government and the contractors or those investors will go through? Because I do know about instances of disputes now. Lands were given for public good,
Yes.
and now the institutions that benefited are reselling part of those lands.
Yes.
So how convincing or what guarantees are you going to give the people that if this thing doesn't go through, does it revert to you, or the new investor begins to say, this is my land and he's selling to other people?
No, no, no. It's not going to be like that. What we're planning to do is that by the time we map out the entire area, we lay out routes, we put poles.
Sites and services.
Yes, site and services. And then we should be able to have prototype so that it will not be a haphazard development. And then the allottees, of course, will know the portions of the land. Now you're talking about compensation. Certainly, those that were going to take over their lands will compensate them. And once they're compensated, I don't think they'll come around tomorrow to say government took the land. And but since it's going to be an estate form and with a particular use, even if you're going to change the use of your location, you need approval from the Ministry of Lands. I can assure you, for this one, there will be no abuse. But for those whose lands will be taken, they will be adequately compensated.
How soon is this document and interface going to start? Because for every administration, like in Nigeria, it's a 4-year tenure.
Yes.
And you have already started.
Yes.
So people are 100 days recently.
Yes.
And so it's no longer 4 years as it were. So how soon are we expected to see some of the actions being implemented?
Yes, I believe in timelines.
Yeah.
And any project that does not have timeline is not a workable one. Precisely by May next year, I think we'll have finished the engagements. And the next thing is to start acquisition. But right now, we have field officers that have started scouting for those lands for those projects. So it's not a project that is going to last for too long. I can assure you, by December, before December next year, I think something concrete will have been on.
Well, looking at the ministry and in other states,
Yes.
people have talked so much about the Ministry of Lands and Survey as a cash cow. How true is that, and is that viable? And can it also be where Plateau State government can look up to and say, no, this ministry, barrister, you need to get us
Yeah.
allocation is drying up, so your ministry has to come out something.
Yeah, I think apart from the Plateau State Inland Revenue Service, the Ministry of Land and Survey is the next in terms of revenue generation to the government. With this increase in activities, I can assure you that we'll beef up the revenue. The governor is already talking, and investors have also shown interest in coming to Plateau State. It may interest you, Yakubu, to know that ever since Barrister Caleb came to assume as the governor of Plateau State, we've been inundated with applications for land by investors. Presently, Greenville wants to build a gas station and then CNG to ensure that vehicles, rather than running on petrol, run on a condensed natural gas. So a lot of pressure, of course. People have been coming to build markets, plazas, even schools. So the investment is very, very massive. And once you have those investments coming, you discover that revenue will be on the increase. And of course, those investments will come with registration of titles. And those investments will have to pay ground rent, apart from the employment opportunities that they are also bringing on the platform.
So, in the coming days, with this new dispensation, how long does it take to have a certificate of occupancy? And secondly,
Yes.
your staff are the foot soldiers.
Yes.
The results will come from them.
Yes.
What is the package designed for them to motivate them to do more than they were doing in the past?
Yeah, let me be honest with you. I inherited a system where to process a certificate of occupancy sometimes takes up to between 5-10 years, which to me is unexplainable. And I've given my word clear to the staff that from 1st November, all fresh applications within 2 months will be able to deliver on our mandate. And then, yes, motivation is also key. If we generate more revenue, and I think we should be able to make a case that the Ministry of Land should be treated as a special ministry. It's a professional ministry, so it shouldn't be like any other ministry. So, but let us generate the revenue first, and it's one of my key target areas to see, possibly before I leave, we should be able to upgrade that ministry to a special ministry.
Have you set a target?
For the ministry?
Yes.
Yes.
And for yourself?
Yes, we have done so. Plus or minus, my appointment is at the pleasure of the governor. He hires and fires. So if I say I'll fix a target, I wouldn't know how long I will stay in the ministry. But anyway, we work with projections. And I have said by the end of next year, we should be able to embark on massive property enumeration. And then by the time you do that, you are dragging more prospective landowners into the darkness, the tax darkness net. And we'll make it seamless, we'll make it less expensive, that even ordinary people, who tells you that ordinary people cannot own a CFO, they also need it. So we want to see a situation where virtually everybody will be able to own a certificate of occupancy on the platform.
Well, that's quite interesting.
Yes.
This conversation will definitely continue because I like also to track people when they make promises
Yes.
to see by next year, most of the things will take off.
Yes,
This is a
exactly.
planning stage.
Exactly.
You're putting it into as you plan also, we need to be informing the public that this is what the Ministry of Lands is doing in Plateau State. They have spoken about this, they have spoken about that. When it turns around, we'll ask you. Yes. How far with these promises?
Yes. Definitely, I know I'm in the public domain, and I'm a public officer, and I'm accountable to the people. All things being equal, we'll try as much as possible to achieve all these things within 2 years, so that at least the people will see the reforms in the land administration and also take benefit of some of the things that we need to do.
Thank you very much. On that good note, the people of Plateau State should be expecting that the reforms will be those that will impact their lives, the economy, and everything we're doing. But besides, it's very important to have a CFO. It can guarantee you so many things. I'm not an expert, but you go to the ministry, you will know. So if you're planning to do a house or to buy a land, ensure that you include owning or getting a certificate of occupancy. Thank you once more.
Thank you very much, Yakubu.
That's the much we can take, and next week we'll bring you another guest who will give us an insight into what they are doing and how it can help society. I remain yours sincerely, Yakubu Tadi.